Welcome back to Crafting for Profit Live. Today, we're talking about something that can feel a little intimidating for a lot of small business owners, a lot intimidating for some of us, and that is putting yourself out there in the media. If you've ever watched someone get featured on TV, local news story, and thought, that could be me, can I do that? You're going to love this episode.
Media appearances can be kind of a fun way to grow your audience and bring attention to your business. And it's not really just like about your 5 minutes of fame, like, oh, I was on TV. It's about what you say during that time and how you use that afterward to connect with new followers, build your email list, and ultimately make more sales.
So we needed a guest for this one because Corey and I are not the experts here. We have a guest today for you. We have Sarah from Creative Ramblings, and she's an expert at this. She's been featured on TV and other media outlets, and she's going to walk us through everything from like how to pitch yourself to a local news station to what to share in those super short 3-minute segments to how to take that exposure and turn it into long-term growth for your business.
So, as always, this episode is pre recorded. If you are watching the live YouTube premiere, we are over in the chat, just chatting away, answering your questions about media appearances and whatever else you'd like to chat about. If you are watching this later or you're listening on your favorite podcast network, you can ask us questions through our form. So, we have that in the YouTube description, and we also have it down below in the podcast notes.
All right, let's get started. Sarah, before we dive in completely, tell us a little about yourself, your journey with crafting media appearances, and how did you get started getting featured?
Yeah, absolutely. Corey and Angie, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Sarah. My brand is Creative Ramblings, and I'll kind of start like right now where I'm at. I share crafting tutorials mostly on YouTube. I still maintain a blog and social media channels, but I'm here to kind of teach people how to craft and use all the fun machines to craft. If we back up about 14 years, which I can't believe it's been 14 years, I had an Etsy shop and I was making cards and wedding invitations and favor tags and all these other things. And I was looking for different channels to market my products, right? How to make more sales. And so I started a blog because I thought this might be kind of fun. Let's share my stuff there. And I realized I really liked teaching. I loved these tutorials. And back in 2011, 2012, there was this really cool blogging community, and it was a lot of comments and RSS feeds, very different from what we see today. And I was loving that community. And in one of the communities I was in, there was another woman who was a craft blogger, and she had just done a segment on her local news show. And she was talking about how great it was and how much fun she had and how she was able to get her brand and her blog and her Etsy shop out there. And I'm like, that sounds really cool. I have a morning show in my town. Like, I want to do this. And so I put myself out there and I got my first spot, and it turned into almost a decade-long relationship with one station. And I think I've done all 3 major stations in my area. But it was such a fun way to just expand what I was already doing. And I had known that I loved teaching people how to craft, and why not open up to this whole new audience?
Okay, so that is incredibly intimidating to me because I am an introvert and I'm over here like speaking to thousands of people on YouTube, but for some reason, like local TV just seems like another level. So, for someone who's never done TV before, you're speaking to me and Angie and probably almost everybody who's listening to this podcast. What are the steps you need to do to break into that local media?
Yeah, great question. And so I consider myself an introvert too, which is why I think I'm really good at this job. Because as you both know, when you're on YouTube, you're not talking to an audience, you're talking to a camera. So even though thousands of people are going to see your video, it doesn't feel like it. And TV is actually very similar because there is a camera, maybe a couple, there's a producer and a host, there's maybe 3 to 5 people in the room with you. So it's not as intimidating. It's very similar to YouTube. But how you break into it is a whole different story. So I would want to step back and say, figure out what your why is. Why do you think you want to reach this local TV audience? And how could it help you reach your goals? So for me, I had this Etsy shop and I had this blog, and I knew that people liked these little craft tutorials that I was doing. And I thought, there's more people out there that want to see this. So how do I reach them? And so that was kind of my why. And I ended up just messaging the show on Facebook. For my first show, I actually went back and I found my original email from them from 2015. It's still there. I went and found it this morning. But they had a Facebook page. The show is called The Morning Blend, and The Morning Blend, I think, is in a lot of different states in some major market areas. It's kind of like an ad show. So after the news, it's a lot of like fun local stuff. And so it seemed like a good fit. So I just sent a Facebook message and I said, this is who I am. This is what I do. My audience really likes these simple holiday crafts that I do. Could I come onto your show and show your audience how to do these fun crafts? I think it'd be really entertaining. And I think we could have some fun together. And then we took it off Facebook. We went to email. We had a call. And I was able to convince the producer that I would be a really good fit for their show.
That sounds so amazing and also still intimidating. I love that you just reached out on Facebook. Like that seems like an easy first step for people is just to research a local station and reach out. Something a lot of people don't realize is that those local shows, like you're talking about, they're actively looking for local people to come on and give them some type of content. So it's not like you're approaching them and they're like, we don't need people. They're actively looking for people every single day. So don't think you are just cold calling someone that is not looking for people. They're absolutely looking for people that probably have the skills you have.
You're making their job easier by filling that in a little bit because there's always going to be holes in their production timeline. Maybe somebody dropped out or they just have something to fill. And instead of the host just chit-chatting for another 3-minute segment, why not have somebody on?
When you're doing this, it's live, right?
Yes, I think I've done maybe a handful of pre-recorded stuff that was with kind of a field journalist. I think we did one outside once that we knew was going to be recorded. And then it was spliced in. Sometimes it'll be spliced in on holidays. So Labor Day, the hosts want the day off. And so they'll fill it with pre-recorded stuff.
Yeah,
But most of the time it's live.
Okay, good to know, just as we're kind of talking through all of these things.
All right. So now you have found the morning show. You're going to reach out. What do you think makes a pitch stand out? Or how do you prepare so then you're ready when they say yes? Because we're going to assume we're going to say yes. So how do you make your pitch stand out and how do you prepare?
Yeah. So I think you have to make it about the person you're talking to and their audience. So when I reached out the very first time to this producer, and I didn't know it was a producer at the time, but that's who I was talking to, I needed to show her how my content could fit her audience and why I was an easy yes. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about growing my brand. It was all about her. And I think I was able to say that the first show I ever did was actually a Halloween show. I was in costume and I did last minute pumpkin decorating, like Dollar Tree pumpkins. And I was able to say, I think your audience would love this. I think they would love to do some last minute decorating. I think we'd have a lot of fun. And that's going to make your pitch stand out versus coming in and saying, I want to grow my brand and I want to grow my shop, because that doesn't resonate with her.
That makes sense. Instead of being like, hey, I've got this amazing Etsy shop and I want to share my products. It's more like, hey, I have 5 products maybe, or something like this. Like I have, these things that might work really well for like easy Christmas gifting or whatever. And one of those things could be your products. You could feature some other local things. And it would be much more like, hey, I'm filling this gap for you guys versus like, hey, I've got cool stuff and your audience should see it.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So people may have heard the term earned media. Can you explain what that is? Do businesses ever pay you for these appearances or how does it usually work?
Yeah, so that's something I learned very early on. So the show, like The Morning Blend, and it may carry different names throughout, wherever part of the country you're in. But these are ad shows. So they are there to make money for the station. So you've got your morning news where your anchors come on and they're talking about the news and the weather and sports. And then this show would air at like 9 a.m. And they would bring in all kinds of local businesses. So maybe there's a window company or a roofing company, but then also like a restaurant or, whatever festival is going on that weekend. They're going to come in and talk about their product or service, and they have paid to be there. And the hosts are wonderful and they make it sound like the best thing ever. And it's an advertising show, but most of these shows have really good hosts. So when you're watching it, it doesn't feel like that. It feels very natural. That wasn't what I was. I'm not going to go pay for ad space. So my goal was to get in and say, I want to offer you something that's going to be good for both of us. And that's kind of what earned media is. It is promotion without payment. So they're going to put me in front of their audience and we're both going to benefit from it. I think we see that a lot in the world of, if you have an Instagram account or you have a TikTok account, and a company wants to send you a little PR package with some cool craft tools in it. You're both benefiting from that. You're getting the craft tools, you're going to share it on your Instagram stories, and they're getting some promotion. So that's similar to what earned media is. So I went into this knowing that I didn't want to pay for an ad spot. I was not this giant business who was coming in to promote my products. I did have an Etsy shop and they knew that. But my whole goal of being on their show was to excite their audience, right? Show them something that they could do and create and that benefited both of us.
Yeah, that's something good to know because they're also not going to pay for your supplies. So in your case, you're making like Dollar Tree pumpkins. You're going to have to supply all the supplies to make your thing. You're going to have to carry it all with you to the studio. They're not going to have a glue gun there or anything like that. So just be aware that you are taking everything you need for that segment with you, setting it up, tearing it down, taking it back home.
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of prep work. It's one of the most fun things I've ever done. I love it. But yeah, be prepared for that work and nobody's going to compensate you. But that's okay because there's a lot of other benefit to it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times that, especially in like our industry where we are teaching people as well as maybe selling things, a lot of times we're like, no, you have to pay me. Exposure doesn't pay the bills.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of that is valid, but there are times when it makes sense to do something for exposure. Like if you wanted to sell local products and you're going on your local show, for example, this is a great audience that you are not going to reach via other means.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that kind of attitude where you're like, no, I will only do something if I get paid. Maybe you are big enough and rich enough to be able to say that. However, a lot of us are not. And so I feel like it's a really great option to like, again, get in front of the right audience, share something, excite the audience, and then hopefully after that, convert a few people to be fans of your business.
Absolutely. And I had this particular producer, and then when I started doing other shows, um, they would take me anytime I would come, and I would turn them down sometimes because I knew how much work went into a really good segment. And so it ended up being about once a month that I knew I could take that time away from my business and get there at 7 a.m. And did I still get my kids on the bus? And did this all work out? Like it had to fit into my life because again, it wasn't a paid gig, but it was a very beneficial thing to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's the key. Once they say yes, they'll probably keep saying yes. So be sure you know your boundaries
Mm.
when approaching this as well. Yeah.
All right. It's time for a commercial break. Should we do it, Angie?
Yeah, let's do it. So right now, today, Crafting for Profit Camp is starting, and we want you to get your free ticket and learn all about Crafting for Profit. If you love this podcast, you are going to love our camp because we have over 40 classes on topics that probably aren't even included in the podcast and from different teachers and different experts.
Now, if you didn't know, this podcast actually was sort of birthed out of Crafting for Profit Camp. So we started Crafting for Profit Camp 3 years ago. We've actually had 3 events, or 2 years ago, and we've had 3 events since then. And so we are really excited. We are like in the groove now. We know what it's like to teach about crafting for profit. And our teachers this time are amazing. I think we have 23, 26 teachers this time. So many people, so many experts who are coming to teach you all sorts of different things from marketing to mindset to inventory to photography. We have everything you're going to need to grow your business at camp this year.
You can grab your free ticket at link.craftingcamps.com/CFP. I put it in the YouTube description as well as a little QR code if you want to scan that. And you can watch free classes each day. And there's also a set of basics classes. So if you're just starting out, those are perfect for you. And they are free for all 3 days. So grab your free ticket and learn a little something more about crafting for profit. Okay, these segments are short. We're talking like 3-minute TV spot here. So what should someone share to hook the viewers and make the most impact?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about the stuff that I typically shared. So I did this for about 10 years total. And I'm still open to doing it now, but the stuff I share now doesn't convert to TV very well, but crafts do. Crafty stuff really does. I always tried to focus on seasonal stuff because one, it fit with my blog and what I was doing, but people got excited about it. So whether it's Halloween or 4th of July, or I did teacher gifts, Christmas decorations, little things that people could get excited about. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't need anything too complicated to do the craft. So I really tried to narrow down to how do they just maybe go to Michael's and get some paper or something, or maybe they use things around their home. Because if I'm bringing in a Cricut machine and a printer, I'm alienating 3/4 of that audience right off the bat. So it had to be simple. And then I would set everything up on my crafting table at home and I would go through the whole segment. I would rehearse everything and make sure that I could fit a whole craft into 3 minutes or 5 minutes. They'll tell you how long your segment is. I always had the hosts with me. And so I would have a project in front of me and one in front of each host. And if you've ever watched morning TV, like Good Morning America or whatever, or cooking shows, they'll do the work and then they'll magically put it in the oven and they take the done one out. You do that with crafts too. So if I'm decorating a pumpkin, I automatically have the finished one next to me because we realistically only really have 30 seconds. So I want to be able to get my point across quickly. Like we're going to put glitter on this pumpkin or whatever it is, but this is how it's going to turn out when it's all done. And I really try to keep it light and be very straightforward that you can do this at home. This is not difficult. And my hosts were fantastic. They would always be like, well, I'm not crafty at all. And look, I did this. So just making it really accessible for the audience and making sure I knew what I was going to say. So I'm not stumbling. But chances are, if you've got professional hosts, it's their job to keep you on track. And if you start to deviate, they're going to kind of bring you back.
That's awesome because I think sometimes it's very intimidating to get on there and think I have to be perfect in 30 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever it is. But you don't. You really don't. You can say you can say you can accidentally drop your glue gun. Things like that happen and they just make you more endearing to the audience, I think. I mean, don't like screw the whole thing up and whatever. I think the perfectionism probably gets in the way of a lot of people of wanting to do this. But you have that host, you have the person there that's also there to guide you. And so when you're thinking about, do I want to do this? Don't think I have to go on TV by myself and make a craft or share 5 Christmas products or whatever it might be. It's more, hey, I'm crafting with a friend and this is going to be fine. And the audience is full of people who are like, I want to be crafty and whatever it is. I feel like it can be so much less intimidating than I think a lot of us make it in our heads.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think people relate more to somebody who feels real. And if we're on there and we're absolutely perfect, that doesn't feel real. And that's not soliciting some engagement down the road. That's just, oh, there was that perfect crafter up there and I can't ever be like that. No, I'm going to mess up. I mean, we would laugh all the time on these segments because it was funny, but we got the point across and we made some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and if you ever watch one of those shows, you can tell the hosts they're professional. They are going to be able to recover anything that you've done wrong or they've done wrong. So if you watch the show, I feel like that gives you a sense of comfort almost. If you watch a few segments and you're like, oh, okay, they are really good at pulling this in, even though it is a live segment.
Yeah, absolutely. And they prepare you ahead of time. So the producer is going to send you a sheet. Who are you? What do you do? What do you want us to touch on? And so if I, went down some weird road, they're going to come back with a question of, oh, we should talk about this. And it keeps me on track. It keeps them on track. And then they're hitting the things that I want them to hit on, like mentioning my website or my Instagram profile or whatever it is I need them to do. They're going to be on because they're professionals.
All right. So once your segment airs, what is the best way to turn those sort of TV viewers into followers, into email subscribers, into paying customers if you're selling a product? Like, how do you get those people who are just watching the morning blend into people who are fans of Creative Ramblings?
Yeah, that's the goal, right? That's what we want. Otherwise, why are you doing the show? Like, I want these people to come in and be my audience and my customers and my subscribers. So I kind of start before that. When I'm pitching a project, ideally, I've already had that project on my YouTube channel or on my blog somewhere. So if we're making a pumpkin or whatever it is, I know that tutorial is somewhere else. So I can point the viewers to that. And I usually would put that in my guest preparation sheet. So, oh, we did this really fast today, but don't worry, I've got a full post on that. Here's where you can find it. So I'm making sure that those are prepped ahead of time. And if they're not, if I've got the whole prep set up at home, I can film a quick reel and put that up on Instagram. And then it's there as a reference. The morning of, I would be on Instagram stories hey, I'm going to the studio today. I'm going to take you along with me. So wherever you're active, maybe it's your Facebook page for your business, maybe it's your newsletter, whatever it is, tell people what you're doing. They're going to be excited for you to go do something. Show them your setup, your behind the scenes. And then in my segments, I would either direct to my blog at the time, to my YouTube channel, to Instagram. Here's where you can find more. I have a ton of tutorials like this. You can learn from me. And I could see that. I could see the followers happen, especially on Instagram right after the show. I'm like, oh, there they are, right? They're just adding up. I would go on my stories then afterwards. Hey, did you see me? If you didn't, sometimes some of the shows will post clips on their social media pages. I could link to that, or I could then link to the reel of the pumpkin and say, oh, if you missed it, this is what we made. Maybe a day or two later, do one of those, oh, hey, if you're new here, did you know? And then point out what you want them to know. The personality that you have on TV should be that same personality you're sharing with your audience wherever you are, because you've hooked these people in and they like you. If you are selling a product, this is a great way to do that too. Look at this creative thing that I made. Did you know I also sell these, right? If you don't have time to go make whatever it is, here's how you can find my shop. So it's keeping them engaged from before the show, during the show, and afterward.
I love that, because when you said you really do need to be consistent in how you present yourself, and Angie and I talk about this a lot, it's part of your branding, right? It's part of your business and who you are. And if you are the person that's going to go on TV, you should also be the person who can easily pop into your Instagram stories, right? And share and be personable and all of these things. I know there are people out here who are like, this is not for me. And that is totally fine. You have to have like some level of being able to get on camera to do this. And from somebody who was behind the camera for many, many years, it does take a lot of confidence and a lot of crying to get in front of the camera. But once you start doing it more and more, it becomes more and more natural. I am no longer so incredibly nervous before this podcast starts. I'm like, I know I can do this. And I think over time, you'll learn the same thing about doing media appearances, right? The first one, you're probably going to feel sick to your stomach and you're going to think you messed up in 1,000 ways and all of this, and nobody's ever going to want you back. But you're going to do fine. And they are going to want you back because they need people. And same thing with your Instagram stories. The more you do it, your YouTube channel, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. My first segment on the Morning Blend, I was in costume. It was a Halloween show. And I didn't know it would happen. My hands started shaking. And so I'm trying to do these tiny little crafts. And I'm like, this is going to look horrible. And I think whoever was at home watching, my daughter watched it live. And they're like, you were amazing. And I went back and watched it. I'm like, oh, you can't even tell. I was sweating. I was shaking. Like, they didn't see it. So that gave me some confidence. Like, okay, even if I think this is going horribly wrong, it's probably not. It probably looks fine. It's going to be okay. And then all the subsequent shows, it got better and better. So I wasn't so nervous beforehand.
There's some amount of buffer, like in viewing TV. You think that there isn't, but there really is some buffer between the screen and the viewer.
And I was going to say, you'll definitely get better over time. If you're like, okay, I might want to do this, you can jump in and do one, and then another one, the second one, oh, okay, I wasn't as nervous. It was better. The third one, oh, wow, I could probably do this. So the first one might be a flop. Maybe you don't even share that one. That's okay. Go to the second one and share the second TV appearance. It's fine. And a lot of those, I'm not even sure if they do reruns on a lot of those shows. So you don't have to worry about people seeing it long term, probably.
Yeah, it's not like it's going to live on the internet forever. It's basically with anything that you're doing for your business, you're going to probably suck at the first one. The first, whatever your craft is that you are making, it was probably not very good. And then the second one, you start getting a little better, and then you look back and you're like, wow, I've come a long way. And that applies to basically every facet of your business. And it will apply to TV and media appearances as well.
Absolutely. So most of the shows I did were live, but there was one, I think it was Morning Blend. We would do a live show, and then they would have me stay after and we would record a segment. And they would use that when their hosts were on vacation. We did this in March, the first week of March of 2020. And that segment that I recorded, I swear that aired probably a dozen times because here we have content. Let's keep showing it. And it was it was like a door hanging, like this welcome wreath. The amount of comments I got on that post, like everybody saw that thing. which was good. It was one I didn't feel nervous about. I was totally fine about it. The world was perfect at the time. Like everything was totally fine. So you never know. But for the most part, they're live and nobody sees them again.
All right. So if TV is too intimidating for people, there are other media channels. There's radio, podcast, online publications. Are there other things that crafters should be considering?
Yeah, the world has changed a lot. So I started doing media stuff in like 2015. It's 10 years ago. It's a different world. So I still think TV is relevant. There is a local audience out there, whether or not it's your audience, you've got to dig into and figure out if those are your people. I find that it's a lot of women who are at home during the day and they like to craft. That has been my experience. So maybe it is your audience. I have done magazines. Again, we're kind of dying out on paper magazines, but online magazines are still alive and well. And it almost operates like if you are a blogger, like a guest post, where over the years I've created craft projects. They've been in a print magazine. They own it. It's all of theirs, but I get my photo and a little byline in it. And then the people who read the magazines are seeing me. I could plug a shop or a website or something like that. So that is still kind of alive and well in the online world. And you can reach out to them the same way that I reached out to a producer for TV. It's find that contact email and get in touch with someone. Anyone who creates content is always looking for content. And it may not be the best fit, but you can always try. I think the most relevant place to be right now is where we are right now. And that's podcasts. It's such an expanding universe and it is fairly new. There's not a lot in the crafting space. And it is a place for you to come and talk about what you do and share your expertise with other people. We're all in the same craft space, but we all have different audiences. So just being here for me, like maybe you don't know me. Hi, I'm Sarah. You can come follow me. Like it's a great way to just get your name out there and get your products out there.
I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there that if any of you guys who are listening have something about your small business that you want to share, Angie and I are always looking for podcast guests. And if you would like to share something about it, I can't guarantee we'll have you on the podcast, but put yourself out there and say, hey, I have a small business doing this and I have found a lot of success with this particular part of my business. Angie and I would love to talk to you about that. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and fill out that form that we have in the podcast notes or below in the YouTube description, and let's chat.
Absolutely. People are looking for content. And you're right, it might not be a perfect fit, but why not? Like what's the worst somebody says is, no, that's not a good fit. And you go on your own way, but put yourself out there. It's really scary. But if you just try, if you just do it, something really good might happen.
And I will give you the note here that we can edit this podcast. So if you were like, oh my gosh, I said something wrong, guess what? Angie is our editor. So we will edit the podcast. Things like that are maybe stopping you from taking these bigger steps where you're like, I want to do some media, whether it's a podcast or a TV show. There are ways to help you do it. You do not have to go at this alone. So anyway, if you're interested, shoot us a message.
I was going to add the additional benefit of the authority of media appearances. So maybe you don't get a ton of followers. Maybe you don't get a ton of sales from that media appearance, but the authority that you're building in the online space or offline, that you are a real person and you do know what you're talking about, and you build that authority over time and it will help you down the road. So I just wanted to mention that there are hidden benefits to media appearances, not just like the followers or the sales or whatever. And podcasts made me think of it because they really say that being on podcasts can build your authority with Google more than anything else right now. So that really made me think about the authority aspect of doing these media appearances.
It builds authority in so many different ways. So from just an SEO, like a Google search perspective, the more people that mention your name, the better. But also locally, like if I say to someone, oh, I know Tiffany from the Morning Blend, like we've known each other for 10 years. And somebody goes, really? Like that's you? You're that crafter? People really have a lot of respect for that. But then this is in my media kit. When I'm reaching out to brands, like, here's how I can work for your brand. Look what I've done. It really just sets you up well.
I do want to throw out another small thing that doesn't really have much to do with this podcast, but it kind of does, is if you are doing media appearances, if you've been on a podcast, if your products have been featured anywhere where you can get a link, those links all need to be on your website. because basically you are telling Google, yes, that was me. You have your website. And if you're saying like, if you're linking, hey, here are my episodes on the Morning Blend, or even if you're just linking to the Morning Blend, that can say, okay, that Sarah that was on the Morning Blend is the person who owns this website. And that builds up the Google SEO and basically is helping, again, build that clout and build that Google juice to say, this is the correct Sarah. When we're talking about Sarah from the Morning Blend, we are also talking about Sarah from Creative Ramblings. And that connection is so much more than I think people understand. When I had a giant SEO audit of my website a while back, he was like, link to everything you've ever done, because you're trying to build that reputation online and create the connection within Google that, yes, Corey, who was featured in Good Housekeeping in 2017, is still the Corey that is running this podcast right now. And all of those connections really build up how much Google will share your stuff in its algorithm. And for those of us who rely on the Google algorithm for all sorts of, people coming to our websites or YouTube channel or whatever, that's huge. So if you have appearances, if you have links to things you've done, if you're even things like, hey, I was at this craft fair, and you can link to that craft fair, anything you've done, add it, because it's all just building that Google juice. And all of that is really helpful in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's such a good point.
All right. So we have been on TV. We have converted some of those people to our email list or to our Instagram followers, and now they're watching us on YouTube. That's great for our audience. But how do we continue to build that relationship with the media? So how do you continue to do these sorts of things?
Yeah, I think building a relationship is always the goal. A one-off is really fun, but if you can build a regular relationship, that's ideal. Because then you're going to keep getting to those same people. They're going to recognize you like, oh, I remember that crafter. She was on here last time. I really like that thing she did. And maybe they're going to follow you somewhere else. It starts with really good content, right? Do a really good appearance. Make them want you back. So show how valuable you are. And it can even be, we did this. I'm going to follow up with the producer. Hey, a lot of your audience seemed to really like, I got comments. I got stuff saying people really liked what we were doing here. Show your value, offer to come back. That can be kind of a scary conversation. I don't think I've ever left the station without having the producer or the director be like, oh, thank you. It's so good to have you. And then I would love to come back if you'd ever want to have this conversation again, which even just saying that now, it makes me kind of nervous, but put yourself out there or follow up with an email the next day. Really enjoyed our segment. If you'd ever want to have me back, here's some more things that I could do that are along the same lines that I think your audience would like. So put yourself out there. But as we said before, these producers are looking for content. So if they liked what you did and they see some kind of bump with their audience, they're going to ask you back. Be open and be flexible. Because these are ad shows, those people come first. Like the paying window guy who's going to replace your windows, he gets a segment first. But it tends to fall around holidays or times where other people aren't promoting their stuff, that they have holes. And so be flexible. If the producer reaches out and said, hey, I've got time on this date or this date, can you do that? And be open to some of that. Stay in touch, right? Just, hey, Christmas is coming up. Have you thought about doing this? You can also offer like a fully planned out segment too of, we did this Halloween thing that went so well. What if we did that same thing, but we did it for Valentine's Day? Same kind of thing. So they kind of know what you're doing and they're not having to do the planning. It's on you. You're doing all of that. You can also take that formula, and once you feel comfortable with it, go to another station. I don't live in I live in a very small town, but I'm like 30 minutes from my major metropolitan area. And we've got 4 stations. They all have some kind of a morning show. And so I was with Morning Blend for a couple years, and then I went over to our local Fox affiliate, and they had something called Wake Up, I think, another fun little thing. I pitched them, and we ended up doing, my first one I did there was a nursery decoration, like DIY nursery decorations. I was just redoing my toddler's room, and the reporter, his wife was pregnant. And so it was just a total natural, like, yeah, this makes sense. So you can copy and paste to the next station, and you can try to build these relationships and your authority.
There's no like non-compete when it comes to this. They just need
Yeah.
content.
Different content, right? I'm not going to do the same pumpkins at each station. That'd be kind of weird. I'm going to give them their own thing. But what's something similar but yet unique to that station that I can give them?
All right, Sarah, thank you so much. But before we wrap up, I know you teach a YouTube laser class. Do you want to tell our listeners about that, especially if they want to get into lasers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I do mostly is I'm on YouTube. That's kind of where you could find me at Creative Ramblings. I still maintain a blog and some social channels, but I spend most of my time on YouTube. And I opened up a YouTube membership. So, I have a community there. And if you are part of that community, you have access to a laser course, a second course that I am working on. Hopefully, this fall it's going to come out. Some behind the scenes posts, some interactive stuff that we do that's just available for members, and some conversation that you can come and ask me, but I do focus a lot on laser crafting. And so if you are new to the world of lasers, this course starts from the very beginning and there are no silly questions. Like we start from like, what is a laser? Like very, very beginning. And we go from there. So come find me on YouTube and hopefully I can teach you something.
All right. So if you want to find Sarah's membership, you can go to link.craftingcamps.com/laser course, LASERCOURSE. And you can check that out. And Angie and I are both huge fans of lasers. All three of us are in this laser crafting space, and we love them. So if this sounds like something you want to get into as well, definitely check out Sarah's membership.
All right, Sarah, that was such a good conversation. Thank you so much for being here. You really broke down the process of getting into that local media, made it feel more approachable. I was intimidated at first when I saw this topic. I'm not going to lie. So instead of being this big, scary thing, I really feel like you showed us that you can do the right pitch, have a clear idea of what you want to say, and it's something that really any small business owner can do.
And I think it was really helpful to like how to convert those viewers afterward to people who now are Creative Ramblings fans. Because yes, the media appearance is great and it's good for your clout and all of that, but then it's also great to have those people tag along for the journey afterward. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. I feel like you really taught us something that we hadn't really talked about on this podcast before, and I can see why you're so good at this. I feel like you were just so very articulate with your thoughts, and I was like, yes, I can see why she does really well on TV. So thank you so much for joining us about this topic.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. And I hope that we really reached some people and answered some questions.
And we will link to all of Sarah's information below. So if you're like, I didn't get that YouTube link for her course, not a problem. Head to the podcast notes or the YouTube description. We'll have all the links for you so you can check out Sarah and become one of her #1 fans. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Crafting for Profit Live. And of course, leave us a review because we love your reviews. And if you have a crafty friend, you're like, they need to be on television with what they're doing right now, be sure to text this episode to them right now so they can get all this information. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.